Hey guys, before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our level 3 courses. Wem and I tried to sit down and do some big swanky radio advert and it's just not us. So I'm just going to chat about it for a minute. So our level 3 training is the same price as some other courses out there where you just get 5 days and you are out the door, do your coursework on your own. Our course is, for the same price, is 10 days of training. So for our May cohort, that's 5 days. And then we have a bit of a month off to just let that settle. We come back for a weekend, maybe do a bit of camping. Then we have a bit more time off and then we come back for another weekend. With the September group, we do 5 Mondays starting in September. Then we have a bit of a break. Then we come back in the new year and do another 5. So we're really like focusing on building community as we go. We didn't really want to do that like conveyor belt thing. We could be doing, a level 3 course every school holiday, banging them out, off you go. But we don't want to do that. We do Zoom calls throughout the year. We do loads of like cohort, community building sessions and stuff to help people with what they're doing. And that means that we want to do it well rather than doing lots of it. So we're trying to help people do that. And we're also really big on this community aspect. And we found that people not only find the course easier to do in terms of workload, but also easier to do emotionally when they do it with somebody they already know. So to try and encourage that, we're doing a train together kind of offer. So if you and someone else sign up to do the course with us together, we'll give you some money off your course because we found that the success rate is much higher. People are much happier while they're doing the course, and it makes our life easier as tutors because, happy students, motivated students, we're all kind of getting on together. So if you want to be part of a community rather than just being put through a conveyor belt, then have a look at our website. It goes to myforestschooltraining.co.uk. That'll take you to the Children of Forest website, and you can go from there, get your application in, and join our communities. So on with the podcast.
I'm Wem.
And I'm Lewis.
This is the Forest School Podcast.
Let's go!
Hey folks, right, so before we get into today's episode, I have a few quick announcements to deal with for the class. First one is that Wem and I are going to be at the FSA conference this year in Danbury. We're doing the same things we did last year, which is that we're going to wander around, we're going to try and interview some people, but we're also going to try and capture the vibe, all the vibes, man, the vibes of what's going on. So if you can't make it to the conference, then fear not, because we'll have a massive bumper episode of things you can listen to. And if you are going to be there, then come and find us and come and have a chat. I'm going to be wearing my absolutely vile, massive pink hoodie with the podcast logo on, and I'll be walking around with a big microphone. So come and grab one of us and say hi, and really like meeting and chatting with you guys. And the other thing to say is that we are fully booked on our September level 3 course, which is about to start in a couple of weeks, and we are starting to take all our bookings for the May course in 2023, which seems a bit scary now to be planning things for 2023, but there it is, and people are already booking in and starting to do that thing where they can pay just a little bit every month, because it's a whack of money, and I know not everybody has that to go, so we made it a bit easier. You can do it piecemeal, bit by bit by bit. And while you're paying bit by bit, you can get a jump start on your training, like listening to this podcast. We've had some people who have done our training come on the level 3 course, and they said, "Oh, I've listened to all your podcasts," and it's great because it's like a shortcut in for 2/3 of the level 3. We just go like, "Oh yeah, they talk about that, and they already know this stuff." It's great, it's absolutely great. So yeah, this week Wem and I are talking about last episode. I talked to Lara, and towards the end, the conversation of Warplay came up. I had quite a few messages about that, so we thought, well, let's do a whole episode about that one. So yeah, enjoy.
Kinds of hammocky noises.
I don't know if we'll get I don't know if there are. Do you think there's going to be hammocky noises? What, do you mean from the hammocks or us going,
Yeah.
Oh, we're old. Oh dear.
Both.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
I don't think we get that many hammocky noises.
Okay.
They deal with all the other noises, like the birds and the wind and the rain and the... Sometimes I listen back to the recordings and I'm like, this is a sensory nightmare.
Yeah.
Of and so I can only apologise when it rains. That just
Yeah.
I can only apologise.
Tis hard.
But there's not a cloud, and no clouds allowed in the sky. Today. And do you know what I thought when I was driving in?
What?
So, pros and cons of. Con was this week the hedge macerator,
Flail.
flail, did the
Tractors.
the tractors did the
cutting
edge of the
hedges.
field, which is at the bottom of our woods, and like I reckon it was flinging sticks. What, a good 10 meters into the woods? 20 meters. It was, we had to like not go near the edge of the woods when it was coming past. And it always makes me, go, oh, it's such a violent act, like, and you hear it going past and stuff. But on the plus side, this morning, clear blue sky, and because they've done lots of the hedges around here, it looks like all of the, in a very Victorian way, looks like all the lands had a good short back and sides.
Yes.
It looks very neat.
Yes.
And all the hedge, especially in Devon, like our hedges are quite tall, or they get quite tall. So when they cut them all back, it's like you can suddenly see when you're driving. You're not driving in a tunnel.
Yes. Which is always quite useful.
Yes. Well, is it Bill Bryson said that Devon is like a disconnected county because of all the hills and the high hedge banks. You leave your village, you drive in a tunnel, and then you pop out at the next village, as opposed to a flat area of land where you can see the next village is X far away, and you feel connected to them, and you see stuff. Devon is a
In the world of driving, maybe, but in the olden days, with all the footpaths, which are always there.
That's true.
When you look at maps, they have evolved to be connections between villages and routes between villages and like market towns, and then you can see.
I like Devon's roads because occasionally you're driving along and you see one where they've made the road and then someone 300 years ago went, I'm not moving my house. I'm not moving this field a square foot for you. And so the road has to do like these weird right angles. Just be like, nah, not giving that bit up. Yeah. It's amazing. I love it. Yeah. So I'm in a quite chilled out, glorious space. It feels like an odd topic to be talking about war.
It does.
But maybe this is excuse the scrunchy noise, the hammock noises. Maybe this is the strike when the iron's cold.
Yeah.
Like.
Maybe it is.
The best chilled space to talk about something that can be, let's say at the least, an emotive subject.
Yes, definitely. So, you were talking with Lara, weren't you, from Ottawa the other day?
Yes. And
talking about Warplay a little bit, and then you mentioned that it came up in another episode, and then we had listeners going, which other episode?
We had quite a few people going, and that sounds great, can you tell me which one?
And then we realised there wasn't one exclusive one on Warplay, we just sort of bring it up now and again. And we've chatted a bit about it on social media. It's a post that we put out. So we thought we'd just do an episode just about Warplay. And I guess, should we start by defining what Warplay is?
Because yes, that was one of my notes.
Great.
Well, you do yours and then I'll do mine.
Well, okay, but before I do what I would define it as, I think it's really interesting that you see some, especially early years, childcare settings, outright banning Warplay and also superhero play, and then putting those two categories kind of together as equal kind of bad things that should not be done, should not be played. And lots of, stuff that you can read about, what do I do when the kids in my care are really obsessed with superhero play? I think maybe it came up in that Vivian Gutton Paley book that we read. You Can't Say You Can't Play. About superhero play, I think there's quite a lot of stuff in there, and it just being automatically bad. Superhero play is bad. Oh my god, they're obsessed with it. They're stuck in a rut with it. They can't get out of it. Blah blah blah. So I just thought that was an interesting point to make, that those two topics often get sort of scrunched together. So I guess when people hear Warplay, they kind of think about playing with weapons, playing with guns. I would say that's the kind of first thing that people imagine. Not so much, interestingly, bows and arrows,
primitive
and
stuff,
swords and shields. Those will be lots and lots of people would have issue with kids playing with, especially realistic looking plastic or metal toy guns these days. Yet you will go to a really lovely shop in a National Trust property, beautiful stately home, beautifully
summer,
outdoor gardens, loads of outdoor activities for kids, lots of nature connection for kids, And in those wholesome shops will be wooden bows and arrows, swords, shields.
Crossbows. We went to Tintagel this summer, my family.
Yeah.
And there's a full working crossbow and suit of like, it wasn't real obviously, like pretend chainmail armour. Like, you know, like a tabard thing of chainmail and helmets. And, yeah.
So when people are worrying about warplay, which is completely normal for us as adults to get kind of concerned about, you know, the kids that we're looking after, either our own children or the children we're looking after as part of our jobs, and are we doing the right thing, and are we kind of supporting them in the right way and putting in any boundaries that need to be put in there. So it's perfectly, you know, it shows that we're reflective practitioners if we're thinking about these questions for sure, rather than just going, oh, whatever. But you don't often see people worrying about play with those items. You see them worrying about realistic looking guns, or perhaps the tone of the play. So, you know, playing in the woods, for example, with a group of children, and then it becoming about, so I would include in war play things like, you know, this group's built a den, this other group's built a den, and now they're going to be raiding each other's dens, or they're going to be sneaking up to attack. And you can imagine, you can kind of hear in your mind's ear, that's not a phrase, but I just made it up, in your mind's ear, like the tone of the voices in that type of play, the kind
it's
of
like deep tribalism, isn't it?
There's like, come on, like there's the kind of stealthy plan-making aspect of it, and then the sneaking up, and then there's the kind of outrage that it's happened, or the shrieking that they're being attacked, and, you know, that kind of play. I would still kind of put that in the category of war play. So things about capturing other people's stuff, or people, for example. We've had that here, you know. Aim of the game is to capture this person and kidnap them. And
would you also put in the like training and preparation stage of stuff? Because quite often that's not, sometimes it doesn't even result in any den going to see another den. The game is like, we're in front of our den, treehouse, whatever, we're like training up, let me teach you these moves, let me show you the moves, okay, and we're going to make traps, and we're going to like, and it never culminates in like an attack or the ambush, but it's, so I count that in.
I would too, which makes it all the more, I'm going to move my hammock now, it's going to be noisy, all the more interesting and strange when you're talking about proposing an outright ban on warplay. Are you going to ban that stage? Like, where do you decide when warplay begins and ends? Like, there are all these settings, like so many settings have a ban on warplay. And how do you, because I would definitely, you know, that happened this week, didn't it? Or was it last week? Last week, when I was asked to be the enemy in a game, and then I kept coming back up the hill and chatting with you about how it was going. I happen to be a giant crow, by the way, a giant magical enchanted crow.
Do you want to show them your noise? Do you think you can do it in the hammock? She's been working on it all week, so proud.
I think I might do it in a bit. I've got a bit of a cold, so my throat isn't going to do the normal thing. But a lot of that was exactly that planning, and then the kids going, okay, so you want this, but we don't want you to have that. So what happens is, if I do this gesture, that means that the ground shakes and then you fall over. But unless, if I do this, then it means this. But you can do this, but you can't do this. But you are allowed a magic, you know. And it was all about that. And then I had to really, really sensitively gauge, do they actually want me to come down? Yeah. And if so, like when? Like, and I kept just like sneakily looking, because there was so much play happening where they were communicating with each other. You do this and I'll do this. Okay, cool. But then blah, 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 blah. It's like, if I attack now, if I just take it at face value, they've asked me to attack and they've told me I can use this weapon or whatever, then I'm killing all of this amazing stuff that's happening. So how long can I kind of draw it out before they actually really do want the kind of conflict part, you know?
If ever.
If ever.
If ever.
Yeah.
I always think that's one of the successes of like the sandbox type games like Minecraft, in that like it's different to like Modern Warfare 2 or something like that, where it's just like you're in a fight and you're in a fight. But something like Minecraft, where it's like this will happen every 10 minutes. So you have prep phase, then you have like tense phase, prep phase, and that flow is so useful for developing your interoception of like, oh, it's happening and I'm feeling tense, but I know it's going to come, and then it calms down and I get a chance to recover. When you get no respite, that's when it's, I think, tricky.
Yeah.
So you very helpfully looked up a load of articles, which you and I have just done that, doing our homework and tutor period thing, which you've literally just read them before we turned the microphone on. One of them was a Guardian article, which was like a Guardian debate, sort of back and forth between two practitioners who work in childcare, specifically nurseries, which is interesting, I thought, for this thing. But one of the points made in there in favour of war play, or sort of questioning it, was asking whether zero tolerance approaches are an avoidance tactic by adults, and sort of saying that that war play is this hugely complex beast if you include all the things of the prep play, the tribalism, the power and identity, the hierarchies that come, and saying...
making stuff.
And sort of positing the question, like, is zero tolerance actually for the children or for the adults? You know, is it just an easy way? And I'm not accusing anyone. I think it's an interesting point to raise that, like, whenever an opinion is like easier for the adult, I think it needs like extra scope to be like extra sort of scrutiny to be like, just double check, is it easier for everyone or easier for the, and like I think that's really interesting to and because lots of forest school practice is not in the very luxurious position of being unwatched. We don't have head teachers coming to watch what we're doing here. We have all the time in the world because we're such a long-term program. If you're doing forest school for 6 weeks in a school and you've got outcomes to deliver, do you have the luxury of being able to go, okay, this might need 8 weeks of working out the inner intricacies and like maybe
observing
actually, so that's a really interesting one.
Can I just interject just very quickly there about a blanket ban being easier for the adult and that needing extra scrutiny? And I totally think that that's part of being a reflective practitioner, and especially when you're working with so much free play, child-led play, about kind of, and we talk about that on our level 3 training, about the types of play that make you personally feel uncomfortable and how you can address that and like interrogate, you know, without trying to get all kind of like...
Oh, we get them on a chaise lounge and we sit there and go, so tell me about your childhood.
Exactly, we don't want to go there, right? We're not we're not trained therapists. But you know, for your own, preserving your own safety,
you're
emotional...
part of the group.
You're part of the group. So it's not that it's not going, it's not okay to be uncomfortable with this play and you just have to suck it up because it's good for the children. Like, you know, it might be triggering for you to watch this kind of play for a huge host of reasons, and that doesn't mean it's wrong to feel that way. But it might mean, you know, hopefully... It
might benefit from some unpicking at another time, not in the moment.
Yes, and especially some assistance from other practitioners in terms of like, if you can't deal with that right now, but you've got the kind of open-mindedness as a practitioner, as a human working with children, to go, okay, I'm finding this really hard, but I can see that the kids are actually getting a lot out of this. This isn't just blanket ban territory, because I can see there's some positives there. To be able to fall back on a team member and go, okay, I can't be the first and closest person to this right now. Do you mind stepping up and doing it? I just wanted to say that there in terms of...
Well, I had exactly that with you a couple of years ago now, where there was some war play going on. So one of the things I do want to touch on is that, like, quite often we will do what I refer to as like lightning rodding.
Yeah.
We go, there's this war play happening, but, and this is what I think is really interesting, is like nobody right now is in a space where they can be the less powerful ones, but the play still needs to happen. There's some people that need this power play, but nobody needs the low status play.
Or like some kids who kind of naturally fall into that role. And I think that's a really interesting point to make about when you're observing, especially over a long period of time, is it always the same kids who are playing that role? Is it the same kid always who is being the baddie? And if it is that okay? What is actually going on there? Are they in that baddie role because they genuinely feel like they're able to do it and they're happy to contribute that element to the play, a bit like we might do, for whatever reason? Or is it because it is to do with their own kind of self-image and self-worth, or the view of the rest of the group that the rest of the group have of them, and to be really flipping attentive to that and be ready as you were about to say, about being the lightning rod. So sorry.
Yeah, so to step in and be like, okay, I will unite you all against a common enemy, which is me. Basically, because like my skin is the thickest, I'll take all of the hits. I'll let you work this out. I mean, sometimes physically hits, but hopefully not normally physically hits. But what I was going to say
you were saying a couple of years ago.
Yes, so a couple of years ago, normally, look, I love the children we work with, but I mean, they are not the well-organised militia that they think they are, right? They are an absolute shitstorm. We've been doing this for years and years and years, and always it's like 20 minutes of planning the most insane trap system. You go down here, we'll flank them, and then you arrive, and the whole thing falls to shit because one kid runs out and goes like, "I've got laser powers!" and it's all anyway. But we did once have where they genuinely got organised, and someone was at the front, and they got the kids to line up, and he was marching, shouting orders, going, right, and a real militaristic tone of voice, right, line up, attention, and they all lined up and faced me.
Using their own personal interests and research and stuff that they've done to back this up. Yeah.
And it scared the living shit out of me. And it moved into an area of play where I was like, I can't do this. It's genuinely scary seeing them organised and seeing the way he was shouting at them, and I had to just go to you and go, I can't be in this play for a minute. I just need to go and regroup and assess what it is.
Yeah.
And actually I was okay with it once I'd come back, but because it happened organically and I got there, much like the children, I just needed to hold up a hand and go, whoa.
Too much for me right now.
Too much for me right now. I just need to go process.
And can I point out that also, and we have talked about this in the podcast, this is one of those things where we've talked about it in a previous episode, but not on topic maybe, where...
Us?
If you don't mind.
No?
I'm sure we've talked about this before, but I hope you don't mind me bringing it up because it's kind of your story. But
sure.
A couple of months ago where you were just like, up in the morning circle, if we're playing that game, I'm not in a place to play that right now. Yeah. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And it wasn't because it was particularly militaristic, it was just about your state of mind at the time and what was going on, and that's kind of highlighting two different practitioner approaches there in terms of the militaristic, your response, your like gut response to the militaristic thing. Would it have been appropriate for you to storm on there going, whoa, no, this is not okay, we're not playing this right now? No, how would that child who was leading that play have felt if you had done that with that like authority and power, gone, the thing that you're really interested in and now you're getting to play out and experience and see what it actually feels like, rather than just watching it on TV, actually getting to do it. How is that feeling, and how is that feeling for other people, and what's the response to that, and for you to just go and go, no, not allowed, like that would have been really damaging for that child, as opposed to you up
whole bridging
going, in the other scenario, just going, personally I'm not in a place to play that right now. And we talked about that being an amazing model for the rest of the children, and they really listened to that and they really respected that. And kind of our approach, because we haven't really talked about our approach yet, so our approach is that we kind of we allow it, we don't ban any type of play, but we are always striving with as much support as children need to help children to be self-advocating. So practicing, I don't like it.
Hand up, stop, I don't like it.
Yeah, stop it, I don't like it. Really talking about these things. So if children are either, bringing toy weapons or they're making toy weapons or whatever, and talking about this could be tricky for some people, like it being pointed in their face. And some days it might be okay, and other days it might be not okay, and some minutes it might be okay, and minutes it might not be okay. And rather than banning it, helping
working
children
towards
to explain to one another, I'm not in a place right now.
So this
what
was
a stronger way than to model that's true for us too,
Because this was in the Guardian article again, this debate thing, and I was disappointed it wasn't like this debate thing goes back and forth, and so some of the points get lost because someone makes 5 points and someone responds 3 of them, but so stuff got lost. And one of them was that should one child's singular focus be allowed to intrude on everyone else's play? And I was like, there's a real misstep in not addressing that, in that this idea that like allowing war play means it is like synonymous with zero input, zero scaffolding, anything goes, anarchistic, okay, Lord of the Flies, do whatever. That people go, if you allow war play, what they hear is, I do absolutely nothing to stop bullying, domineering, all these things. And you're like, no, these are completely separate things. You can allow war play and still preserve autonomy, do this self-advocacy thing, reject dominant. One of the ones you sent was an article from the perspective of military families.
Yes.
And working through that thing of like seeing one of the parents go off to war and this child packing up, and the packing up including guns and everything else, and they had some steps that you can do. So the steps that they had, I'll do them quickly.
Yeah, because they recognised that child's need for that
to
kind
play
of play,
it through,
but
to
were
understand.
worried about the effect on the other children.
Right. So their steps were observe.
Oh, first of all, rules.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah, the rules of no hurting or damaging things.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's their like overarching thing. Observe, then specifically observe misconceptions and challenge if appropriate. That's in there like as a subheading. Challenge if appropriate.
And observe the tone, I read as well, because you might instinctively have this like, oh God, they're playing this game. This is awful. This is bad. Oh my God. But if you really carefully observe the tone and the facial expressions and the body language and the responses to the tone of the children who are instigating that play, is anyone actually upset?
Yeah.
Is anyone actually on the edge? Is anyone feeling threatened? If they're not, then actually you don't need to do anything right now.
Yeah. Play along and then communicate with parents, which I found really interesting. So if I can just pick it through slowly. Observing, I don't think anybody doing forest school is going to be new to the idea of observing. Fingers crossed we're all doing good observing. And then actually what I wrote was challenge misconceptions, and then I wrote, no, it's not. It's about observing misconceptions and challenging them if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Because challenging all misconceptions would just absolutely kill the play you're becoming in. Actually, the blood wouldn't come out like that. Your eyes would roll up when you're shot in the back of the head. So if you could... come on, mate. That's... Anyway. Playing along, we kind of talked about us being lightning rods, doing these things. My phone's reminding me to eat. I will eat later. And then parents. But actually, communicating with parents, I thought was a really interesting one. So they've got this thing. And what I thought was... Because... I would say allowing war play and being like... not advocating for it, but being like, this is acceptable, is still in the realms of counterculture. So you have to acknowledge that most people will hear this thing and be like, oh, what are you doing? Hopefully most of the parents that choose to send their children to a forest school setting will understand a bit of the ethos that's going on. But I still think if you tried to communicate in a completely neutral way, like, hey, there's been some war play going on, they're doing this just as a feedback, people would hear your child, like my child's involved in war play. Oh my God, they would hear the bully, domineering, intrusive
or
side.
victim,
whatever. Yeah. So that actually that is a conveying that to parents confidently and being like, this is what's been happening and we're absolutely okay with it and this is the scaffolding we've been putting in place and we're always watching this, and that's a huge part that I think ebbs and flows with needs, right? It doesn't always need it. Gemma almost fell out of her hammock. She just
did a bit of runkling. Yes, I picked up on that as well in that article and it said communicate, especially the positives.
Yes.
So you could, good to keep in touch and let parents know that this is happening. And that could be something that we do more, to be honest, I think.
That's what I mean. I took it on as I think we do it, but we could be better.
Yeah. In terms of kind of going, so we were playing this game, and oh my gosh, the problem solving that happened between these kids, or and it began in this way, but it turned into this amazing hospital for wounded people, which happens all the time here, right? It kind of lots of groups arrive with these kind of ideas, and then it just slowly morphs into something. As
if you want to see a playing out of real world history, there was a war the other day, and then very quickly all the soldiers set up a hotel. And I imagine if you went to some parts of France, you would find some places where GIs stayed and went, I'm going to set up a lovely little B&B. And that's exactly what happened. These children went from right, fucking war play, and we're going to do, and then boom. Yeah. How many rooms would you like, sir? Yes, okay, we'll come down for dinner. That's normal, but you have to let that river run its course.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed in the article in those steps as well about not stopping it abruptly.
Yes, that's
and
really
about
important.
that thing of being in any kind of play and being in flow, the kind of tendrils of attention are out, and then someone And we've actually had this week about like just breaks, like we
Oh,
need to eat,
yeah.
and the effect
It's really
of
hard.
going, oh, it is break time now. We are going to sit down together and eat, and then like kids go, but I'm really in flow and I don't want to stop now. It's really bloody hard, but especially hard in those kind of heightened play scenarios like that, where emotions can be running really high, and for you to just walk on there and go, no, stop, this is not okay, is potentially very damaging. And like my own kids have kind of come back from school and told me that that's happened at playtime in their school, so they're not allowed to pretend that their hand is a gun. They're not allowed to pretend that they've got a lot of loose parts in their playground. They're not allowed to pretend that any of those loose parts are weapons. And they remember that enough, that interaction with that adult who's going, no, we're not allowed to do that, to come home and tell me about it and go, it's not fair. Why are they saying, why are they doing? Like, I don't understand why. What is the problem? It's my hand. I can't actually shoot someone with my hand. Why are they saying it's not allowed? So I thought that was interesting, but also about like calling intermissions and calling breaks to kind of, as a group, kind of solve any problems that are coming up, which is something we do a lot, right? To go, hang on a minute, so-and-so's looking a little bit upset, or is everyone still feeling okay about this? If not, are there any rules that we want to put into place? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it sometimes makes me feel a little bit like if the power play in that sort of tribalism raiding type play, it's like a metronome swinging backwards and forwards. We've got some power, they've got some power, we've got some power, we've got some power. And then if you abruptly stop it, it's like you've stopped the pendulum on one side very hard, and the other side can feel this real strong sense of like, if a bit like ending any sort of sports game. If we just had 5 more minutes, we'd have got an extra goal in the 90th minute. If we just, it's not fair to stop it now. You're stopping it now because we're losing.
Yeah.
Like those feelings are huge.
Yeah.
Versus going, okay, let's just cause a pause. It's not a finish and then dung dung dung, and the pendulum comes back to a place where eventually they're setting up a hotel together. That speaks French and German and English all together.
Can I just pick up on that military families thing just very quickly?
Yes,
again?
please do.
Because we need to, as practitioners, be really kind of on it with that, because we don't know everything about every child's family. We don't know everything about every child's extended family, their experiences, their family's experiences, which could have effects one way or the other. Like in the example of the boy in the article who, very close family experience and needed to play that out.
Yeah.
You might have children who have really close family experience with that, and therefore it is really triggering and they need to be away from it. I don't think we've ever had anybody like that. I would say probably the opposite, in terms of like needing to play out things that have been scary.
Well, one of the notes I made was escapism versus play therapy.
Yeah.
In that being like, that's something with your practitioner hat on, you need to be observing and go, do we need a safe space from this, or do we need to go into this? And I think that's where this what's the word? It's not dualism.
I know what you mean.
My hammock slipped. God, my stomach went then. Actually, what it might be is a safe space from being dominated, from being invaded, from being whatever, but it might not necessarily, like, again, it's that thing of like, zero tolerance means you don't dig into this at all. Allowing it means you've got to then engage at this level of going, okay, they actually do need this bit of the war play, the prep bit, but they don't need the like attacking bit. Okay, so what they need is a space that's safe in these ways, bum 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 bum, and they need a space that's open in these ways, bum 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 bum. And like, that is a tricky thing to work out. And like,
it is. And I was trying to reflect, so my dad was in the army, and I can still really clearly remember when the Gulf War started. So he wasn't in the army at this point, he'd recently left.
right.
And so I can remember him telling me, as we were listening to the news, that there could be a chance that he could be invited to serve again. And I can remember how I felt about that. And I'm trying to now think, if I was at Forest School or a place where I had hours of uninterrupted free play, would I have wanted to engage in that kind of topic of war play? Or would I be like, I don't want to talk about it, it's going to make me upset? And obviously you can't really know. You can't go, okay, what would I have thought at that time? But I think I would have wanted to have had the space to explore it and talk about it, and with other adults, as well, in terms of.
Yeah, and I think it comes. I do think it comes back to that self-advocacy, ownership thing of like, you need a robust community ethos of like, you can opt in and out of stuff, and you can't make people play a certain game in order to stop the domineering aspects of it. It needs to be like, it's okay that other people are playing that game because I've got a safe. Where if I want to drop out, I can go do some weaving. If I want to go regulate on the swings, I can regulate on the swings. But quite often, Forest School is taking place in less than the space we've got here. So I can imagine I'm trying to look at all these different options. And if you're in, we've run Forest School in some, 10 metre by 10 metre square, in air quotes, nature garden in the back of a school. Yeah. And actually, somebody doing war play up and down is so intrusive over the whole space that you have to work out like, okay, the space for war play can't be the whole Forest School.
Yeah.
Does it need so that these people have got a safe space, so that this thing's got, so that there's a bench that, like in a sports game, like is somewhere you can take a bench and go, I need 5 minutes.
And again, that kind of stuff can be so collaborative with the kids, can't it? It can be a conversation about, hey, hang on, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but can I stop you for 1 second? I notice you've got a real need to like run around and you're playing this game, and I can see you guys really need to play that right now. I'm just worried that if you see these people who are making this art picture on the floor, that it's getting ruined when people run over it. Yeah. What can we do? And then often kids will. No, I've never had a kid go, so I don't care. Like, I've never ever had that. I've had kids going, like, and sometimes they can't solve the problem and they need you to go, okay, well, we could do this. What do you think about that? And give them a solution. But they usually will be respectful. It's just that they literally haven't noticed, and you're just going, I've noticed this and I'm concerned about it.
And also that's that punishment and reward thing of like, the reason that you're doing it is the emotional safety of another person, and you voice that and go, I see this person looking upset, I see them saying I hear them saying they're worried about this, rather than it being like, no, remember the rule is that war play doesn't happen, or remember the rule is that guns go over there. Like, deepening that understanding then allows them to sort of self-regulate. I found it interesting an article from Peter Gray, a piece by Peter Gray, and after I'd done the Peter Gray communion, just bowed down a few times, done 5 rosaries of play, he's talking about play in the Holocaust and play in the concentration camps, which is like, so play in the concentration camps had games such as Jews and the Gestapo men, in which the Jews overpower the Gestapo men, take their guns and kill them. You want to talk about children playing out, the horrors of the world? That's what they're doing. One of them was a survival game where someone was blindfolded, slapped by one other child, and then they take the blindfold off and they have to work out who slapped them. And the description is slapped very hard across the face. And then underneath that talks about like, the necessity to lie to survive in these concentration camps meant that this is a way of playing through, an inspection by a guard, and like, this is a safe way of learning a thing, and that is replicated in Educated by Nature's post about war play being a safe way to learn these predator-prey instincts that like you were saying, people have less issue with the swords and everything else, but the guns are very different. And like, it's just that's the world we live in. That's what war looks like now. But this is
the
thing. Safe learning.
Exactly. And if you find it triggering as an adult, we've already talked about that. If you find it because it's too close to your own experience of life. So I talked in another episode in the podcast about...
Or your own values. Like, you might have a thing that's like, my fingerprint need for fairness is so strong I can't watch it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like, because my family did that. Like, it might just be innate.
Yeah.
But
But you can't deny that is happening in the world, and therefore play as children's way of making sense of the world in which they live in. If they want to explore it, like, how is it our right to stop them doing that, And we talked about giving all the support, the scaffold, not just going, go for it, whatever.
I don't look. Yeah.
You can't... because I am a pacifist, you know, and my kids will take the absolute mickey out of me for wearing a white poppy on Remembrance Day and just being opposed to war at all costs. But that does, but for me, that does not have anything to do with my attitude and opinion towards children playing war. It's just, it's like a completely different thing, because it's and it kind of reminds me reading these articles and that same point about like children play through the realities in which they live.
Yeah.
And you know, we might watch that and wince and go, Jesus, I wish they weren't playing that game. But they are, because that's the reality they're in. And in the same way as if I had been, when the Gulf War was happening, and I had been engaging in some war play, and an adult had come along and gone, no, stop it, war is wrong. You are not playing at soldiers, war is wrong. And I'm going, but my dad was a soldier. Like, what are you saying then about my dad? You know, you're saying that his existence is wrong, that his way of making money is, like, you know. So there's that, and there's also just, this is what I see on the news, this is what's around me. It's a holistic
principle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bringing in parts of your life.
Yeah, and so I've talked, I think, on another episode of the podcast about when I worked in East London in a cinema doing like arts education, and we made a short film with some young people, and then screened it in the cinema, and it was a real learning experience for me, because so the filmmaking was led by some filmmakers who'd done this workshop lots of times with lots of different children all over the place. So I was sort of assisting, but they were leading, and they brought loads of props, including, you know, those like space gun type thing, like neon see-through plastic, and then it makes sparks.
LEDs and
no, not LEDs, like it's like got like a little flint and steel type thing in it.
Okay.
Shung, 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 like that. So they had some of those, and it was like alien invasion of the cinema,
right.
and then there were like superheroes and aliens and that kind of thing, and it was hilarious, and they loved doing it anyway. But I, after the screening, then had a parent come up to me very, very upset and saying, I just don't understand how this can have happened. Do you not understand that on the estate, literally around the corner from the cinema where we live, a gun was found in the grass last week by a child, could have been awful, you know. And here we are at the cinema, and our kids are supposed to have had this lovely experience watching them playing with guns, you know. This is really... And she was very, very upset. And it hadn't even crossed my mind, which obviously, you know, that's my bad. It should have crossed my mind, or I should have thought about it, engaged with it, maybe found out a bit more about the workshop providers in the beginning. Anyway.
You don't know when you don't know.
No, you don't know when you don't know. But I just, it's like, how do you... Because that's another thing, another side to this whole, like, it's all well and good, we as forest school practitioners, we go, okay, this is our approach to war play. But how do you respond if you get a parent who's like, no, not going for it? How do you, because that is all about their feelings, their life experience, their values, you know. It is challenging, and I'm sure we've all come across these kind of moments. Or your co-worker, you know, it's just like, I just can't agree. The value, because that's what was in one of the in the debate article. One of the practitioners was going, well, no, we as adults have a duty to instill values in children, and we have to, from birth, you know, go like, violence is never acceptable, war is never the answer, it is not tolerated, and we need to instill this, and they need a consistent message at work, at school, sorry, at
down the mines when they're working,
down the mines in the factories, and at home, and it's really confusing for them if parents are going, no, war is not acceptable, we're not allowed to play with guns. But they go to nursery and it's okay. Yes,
and I think in that same point, in that same paragraph, like response, was this idea that violence in media is synonymous with success in one way or another. That like, and this is where, going right back to the start, where you were talking about it being lumped with superhero play, is this idea that like the trump of evil violence is greater violence on the side of good. The bigger guy does the bigger punches. The thingy guy, you know, like there's still, you know, even like if you take that, the alignment charts, like lawful good, lawful evil, lawful whatever, like, you know, lawful good is still achieved through violence. It's just violence towards bad guy, which is righteous violence, which is lawful, but, you know, which if you want to get into the police system, we can talk all about the fact that, anyway, you know, How about the government is the only one that licenses itself to use violence? How about that? How about, should we talk about that? Anyway, no one else is allowed to use violence, but anyway, shitting hell. I then thought...
Yeah, sorry, I've got something to say, but you carry on.
But what I got to was, so there's one child who I know very well because he lives in my house, and his whole take on strength and power and, like, his role at the moment is about protection. And he, you know, it probably comes from a mix of, he sees me go to the gym multiple times a week and we talk about being strong and we talk about, you know, using our muscles and stuff, and he is always like, I'm the strongest, so I have to protect people. Which I'm not sure whether I've ever overtly said, like, that is why I want to be strong. But it kind of is, like, there's something about being righteously strong, but not through violence. Like the ability to be strong through protection is still part of war play. Like protecting the castle, protecting the princess, protecting the stuff is, you know, I don't know whether that makes it better or worse, but then I wondered whether, something you said a minute ago, you said, I can't watch that because I don't agree with it. Not you saying this, you would say, and I was like, well, how much of what happens in the community do I have to agree with? Which, like, is there a difference between agreeing with and understanding? So I might, I don't know, I'm getting somewhere, which is like, if this is a community and we're trying wherever possible to remove our high status garbs, you know, to go, okay, this is somewhere we can be more sociocratic, this is somewhere where we can be more equal, then does it matter? Like, if you take the child-led bit of it, I might think that the best thing for someone's physical and emotional health right now is to sit and do some weaving. If they won't do weaving, do I have to then go, well, I don't agree that you should be doing running. But I think you should be doing this. This is what's best for you. So I'm going to enforce that. I've gone really waffly now. But there's
an extra side of waffles.
An extra...
I think, well, there are definitely times, aren't there, where we would put the brakes on if we are really concerned about somebody's safety. So, you know, someone really wants to do something and you're like, I kind of think maybe the opposite of that. But they're not biting, and sometimes you do just have to get a step, I can't let you do that right now. Yeah. I'm really sorry.
But I can't let you because the consequences are physical or emotional.
Yeah. To themselves or others.
To themselves or others, or to the woods environment and all this stuff. But like, if it doesn't tick any of those boxes, I just don't like it. Do we have a right to stop that?
Only if it is only if you're including yourself as a member of the group and it's really upsetting you. You know, as we talked about before, in terms of you don't have another person to go in and second voice that and step up while you take a moment. It's just you. And right now, like the same as those occasional moments where you just go, hang on a minute, I've got these people whittling, that thing's happening over there. I just feel a little bit overwhelmed. I'm really sorry, guys. I know you're all in flow, but I just need you to put the knives down for a minute because I am distracted or I am a bit tired. And do you know what I mean? Those moments which feel really yucky because you're like, there isn't actually a good reason apart from my own internal reasons.
But that is a good reason.
And I am imposing it on you. But it is, at the end of the day, about the safety of the other people because of your inability to cope with it. Because at the end of the day, even though you're trying to get rid of a social hierarchy, in many ways, you can't.
Not all the time.
No.
I'm not saying.
No, but that didactic, authoritarian, top-down. We're doing what I say all the time. But at the end of the day, we are the ones with the experience and the responsibility to look after everybody. So even if it's not like somebody is immediately going to get emotionally hurt or physically hurt, if we feel like we're not in the place to do that, I think we definitely have the right to stop it if we feel like, you know, in that extreme way.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up about like that thing of instilling values and going, oh, war is never right and we must teach all children this from birth, and then the idea is that they'll grow up to be a generation where, you know, war won't exist or whatever. It's all well and good, but it kind of feels to me a little bit like a lot of adults approach talking about climate change with children, and I've talked about that before in terms of or the climate change and healthy eating. So the way that that's kind of taught in a lot of places is very like guilt trippy, worrying. You know, you need to do this. This is wrong. This is right. You need to learn about this because this is flipping important. They're flipping children. Like, how much control do they have right now? Like, zero over climate change. They really don't, like. And yes, give people hope. Like, educate and give hope and make them feel like they can do things and they have power. Otherwise, it is overwhelming and awful. But to kind of instill that real, like, you are responsible to sort this out. It's like, actually, they're not right now. We are the ones with the control. We're the generation with control. Yeah. So how dare we go, we're educating you about this issue so that you can sort it out. How about sort it out now? Like, because you're the adult? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yes,
it's a cop-out and an extra huge burden for them to just go...
Or is it... Well, okay, so just devil's advocate here. Is it cop-out? I can see that point of view. I can see it. Or is it leaders now taking on this just who is the leader, feeling a lack of power and control in their own life because war exists and they're unhappy with it, and going, okay, my forest school is my world. Yeah. Therefore, in this tiny microcosm, I do have power to stop it now. So shouldn't I stop it now if I can?
I can actually see that point of view. Yes.
Yes, as can I. It's just the risk there is the benevolent dictator, which is like, if I had power to stop all the war, then that would be that's fucking Star Wars, mate. Right? The whole plot of Star Wars is if we just run everything, there won't be any war because no one will fight because we'll be in charge. And like, again, is our role to develop holistic understanding, which sometimes involves safe engagement in role play?
Yeah.
Or is our role to shield and... Like, I'm throwing both things. I'm not saying one's right.
Well, this kind of ties into a little bit what I was saying about, like, my extreme pacifist views contrasted with my acceptance of war play in the woods, because you can view it as a completely different thing. You can view war play not as an advocacy for war. You can view it as playing through lived experience, whether that be just from the media, especially at the moment with Russia and Ukraine, or from home life, domestic situations.
Or in the epigenetic stuff of, the trauma in your body.
Yep, so playing through and trying to understand the world as it is, which you cannot deny is a certain way for that child. And you could also view it as, yes, it might have a kind of topic plonked on it of war, but if you look at a bit like we've been talking about through this whole podcast, what is actually happening minute to minute? Is it regulating really passionate emotions and practicing that in a really safe way in a place with lots of support? Is it learning to collaborate with each other and communicate plans and forward planning and all this kind of thing? Is it like forgiveness and compromise and compassion and learning about how it feels to protect other people and all of those holistic skills which are just human? And when else do you get to... It's got to be something high stakes and passionate in order to practice those
You're
things.
Right, and you've said the word skills there, which I want to jump on, which is like... If we think of war play as like a container that has those things in it, and if we can take out the domineering bit, we can take out the other things, then actually this is a play container which has all these...
crucible of awesomeness.
Right. Which, if we look at, from a neurodiversity angle, neurodiverse children that may be playing, someone who is hyper-vigilant through whatever their neurodevelopment means that they have hypervigilance, playing a war game could be a scenario where you've just heightened it way too far and you've put this on and you've gone, okay, you're already hypervigilant, let's make you worried about war. Which obviously as a practitioner, you're looking at this and you're going, what's the emotional response? But there is a chance that playing through war gives that person an opportunity to go, actually, my skill set and the way my brain works is so good here. I can spot somebody rustling through the trees. I can see this thing. I can plan. I can, improvise on the spot. All those things that come with that type of a neurodiverse brain, neurodivergent brain, sorry, that means that like your skill set works really well there. And even something like if you struggle day to day with like demand avoidance, being powerful, playing through this thing of like, I will not give in, I will not surrender. And like in a safe space, you are exercising that need for avoiding demands. You can't take this, you can't take that thing. And like, is there an angle where for some children that crucible is a space where their talents shine, and may gain social kudos, or maybe we talk all the time about children coming out to a forest school setting and teachers who normally have them in the classroom seeing them in a different light and going, oh, they're bouncing off the walls in the classroom, they won't sit still. You can get them in the forest and they're a different person. And like, we quite often see that in like a context dependent way of like, oh, they love it all goes a bit Enid Blyton. They can't sit still in the class, but they love climbing trees, or they love it. If you're like, they are a shit hot watchman. They love standing up there calling out what's going on. Like, that's important too. No, that's
Yeah.
And
the type of communication that it requires, and the type of listening that it requires, and the teamwork and all those things. And I do think, as I just said, that you might go, oh yeah, but you can do those things without it being war. But can you really do those things without like a really healthy dollop of like big emotions, a feeling of a bit like that kind of work play that we talk about, that stress, it's like stressful play. You can't, and a lot of, if you were going to outright ban war play, would you have to ban loads of the wide games that we as forest school practitioners we're playing all the time and advocate for, all of those kind of like, okay, we're, capture the flag. I mean, that is a bloody war game, isn't it?
Or even, you talk about something like, because if you're looking at it as like, war is the clothes that all this play is wearing. If you take the costume off and go like, is Stuck in the Mud tribalistic, dominating, and like highlighting physical skills of one person or a group of people over another? Abso-fucking-lutely it is, right? Yeah. But somehow, without the clothing of warplay, we're okay with it. Or like, is hide and seek any different to like, like you just put the clothes on it. You're seeking out, we're Anne Frank. We're playing Anne Frank. We're hiding from these people. Like, right? Suddenly we play hide and seek. Yeah. And it's a different game. And like, I think it's one of the skills maybe we need to develop as leaders is that it's like that peeling away skill of going, okay, the surface thing is running a hotel. Peel, peel, peel. Oh, okay, this is about working as a team. This is about taking orders. This is about, serving someone else and making them feel good. This is about financial exchange.
This is about creativity and designing a dish. Yeah.
And we're really good at doing that with low stress play. I don't think the community as a whole has an issue with going, oh, when they're playing, and that's the thing. Oh, when they do mud, they're doing maths, they're doing literacy, they're doing this, they're learning about each other. Oh my God, I love playing like hotel. I love playing shops. And we're like, cool. When they play what, we don't play what? Shit. Yeah, well, okay. Well, I mean, there's stuff under there, isn't there, that's useful. Is it the worst thing in the world if they go and work in a hotel? Well, I don't know. Does it mean everyone who plays hotel is going to work in a hotel? Does it mean everyone who plays zookeepers and lives in the, and pretends to be a fox and needs feeding and needs,
are they? And if you are kind of going for that of an end goal of, no more war.
Yeah.
What better way to, it's all very well, you don't really learn from someone going, it's just wrong, and we don't do it. You learn from knowing how it feels to be on both ends of it, learning what it feels like to be wronged, to have your stuff from your den stolen, and I worked so hard for that, and now my home is trashed. How dare you do that? What can we do? How can we repair this situation? This feels really, really strong for me, because I invested all this time and energy and teamwork in building this beautiful den, and they've just stolen part of the roof.
Yeah.
But also, how does it feel to be the person who's stolen the roof and trashed that den, and then seeing the emotional response to, a bit like the episode we talked about, pulling legs off spiders.
Yeah.
Is there something in there which actually, but the more opportunity children have to engage in that kind of play without judgment, with help, with support, but without like a stamp of approval, disapproval, judgment, no, yes, whatever. The more they have that opportunity, the more likely it is that they're going to grow up to be really responsible, empathetic citizens of the world. I mean, I'm pretty convinced. And I think these articles have really helped to kind of, I don't know, pull out certain threads. Because a lot of the time you can kind of go, well, we do this.
Yeah.
And we are reflective. We do talk loads about it. But to be able to go, rather than just, it's my believies, it's just what I think, to go, well,
it's my little believies.
It's my believies.
Yes, I agree. I agree in that the answer is basically, it's a complex beast, and it's not a one size fits all. And, I think with any stuff like this, there is the danger that the risk is what people hear is, you should do what X does, or you should see this setting, because that's what education blog articles end up being like a lot of the time, is like, here's a school in Denmark that did this thing at break time, so you should do exactly that. Like, actually, no. Everyone listening to this, hopefully, is a competent practitioner to some degree. You know what your children need, you know what your learners need. I think the only thing to do going forwards is that I would just encourage people to like engage with it, not to because hiding from it, just going, no, we don't do it, no, I think it's bad. Like, cool, but let's have an interesting conversation about that.
Definitely engage with it, and maybe if there is a rule in your school and you're beginning to kind of bat up against it a little bit, like if you're working in a school setting, is there a conversation to be had there? Maybe armed with a bit of research. Maybe we should put the links to these articles.
Oh, I definitely will.
In the podcast
so people can read them properly.
And if anyone wants to engage in this debate further and has found something cool that you think that the community would benefit from, then drop us a line.
Yeah, get in the comments or do whatever. Yeah. Join us in 6 months when we've changed our mind completely.
Bye. Bye.